Peter Guba spent nearly a decade inside Google, managing more than 1,000 ad accounts, working with everyone from first-time startup founders to global brands like Air Canada, and 4 seasons running tens of millions of dollars a year on Google Ads.
We are unequivocally focused on making paid ads profitable. We will never sell you vanity metrics. None of that stuff matters whatsoever.
Today, Peter runs Profit Mill, a B2B paid ads agency he built around what he learned there, and he works with companies like U.com, RunPod, and Forum Ventures to turn ad spend into actual, repeatable revenue.
Speed is the only moat. Profitable paid ads by an ex-Googler. That's it.
Without further ado, let's get right into it. Please welcome Peter Guba to the podcast. The website is live. Now is when the real work starts. While it's never been easier to build a website, the same is also true that it's never been harder to make a website actually work hard for you. Digital ink is never dry. The moment your website launches is the best opportunity that you have to make it effective and drive marketing qualified leads month after month after month. Most marketers are acting blind. They just don't know who's going to their website. They don't have visibility to see what pages, what specific actions, and how long they're spending on each page. All of these are high intent signals of your warmest prospects. Having a good website is the foundation for all of this opportunity. And if you're not investing marketing efforts into it month after month, your most profitable asset is being lazy. If spending time in the weeds, looking through data, and connecting these insights to the rest of your marketing is not your jam, if your website is being lazy, let's have a conversation.
So until end of last year, and I kind of want to pick that up again this year, is I had my Fridays completely blocked off because, I mean, Monday to Thursday are pretty intense. And by Fridays, I find like a lot of clients are pretty checked out themselves or kind of just probably tired from the rest of the week. So my wife and I would book a spa day or something nice on that Friday. Like once a month, we'd go to the local spa, kind of do the whole like hot, cold Swedish experience, or like go do a bike ride or go out to eat in Detroit. It was just like a really good like recovery day from an intense week and just kind of reset for the weekend and then for Monday. So we were doing that and then it got cold and we didn't do it, but we want to pick it up again this year. So
nice. Was there ever a phase where you worked even on weekends, like in the beginning?
Yeah, probably. But like outside of the hours that we spend together, like as a family, I don't really sacrifice on that too much. But I work hard enough like during the week. I kind of believe in that like 4-day work week. Like I'm already mentally there for 12, 16 hours a day doing this work. And we actually extend that to our team as well. So it's something that's like a very appealing sort of like recruitment perk that if you have the flexibility to take the Friday off anytime, if you feel like you just get your work done, or if you just want to work in the morning and catch up on all the critical action items, like I used to work with somebody who used to work at hotels.com and they had this broader rule that they never launched or pushed any new code on Fridays because you don't want something.
It's a very valid reason for that.
It's a very valid reason.
Never launch a website.
And honestly, like paid ads is kind of the same thing. Like you probably don't want to launch big things on Fridays. We also work with B2B lead gen clients. So like their traffic just dies down on the weekend. So there's not a lot of value of doing anything big on Friday. So from that perspective, like we work with it, I think the right type of client where we can take the Friday off and, recover as a paid ads athlete, if you want to call it.
Yeah, man. Hormozy be rolling in his grave. He was dead, but it's very unhormozy of you. I'm still too, like, in full transparency. I don't have the lovely restraints or the lovely forcing functions of balance that I would deem like a family and responsibilities like that to be. And we talked a little bit about it earlier.
I was like that. I loved working like on the weekend. And I worked at 2 different SaaS companies where one time, I used to work at a SaaS company that it was kind of wild. The office was connected to a nightclub and you could get into the nightclub from the office. So instead of like waiting in line, you could do that. So the CEO of the company I worked at showed up on Saturday night because I was just working like crushing business development and outbound prep.
Yeah.
I'm in like basically sweatpants and like corporate branded t-shirt. And he comes to the office drunk, like ready to go out and sneak in through the club. And he's just like, Peter, let's go out, whatever. And I was like, dude, I'm not going. I'm wearing sweatpants.
Dude,
And
what an amazing relationship building opportunity, though.
okay, well, point being, I get there and he had a booth with drinks and everything and females and everything like that. And I was like, I have never felt more uncomfortable in my life than the way I am right now. And he was like, he works for us. He was just in the office. I just like snuck out. I was like, I'm not doing this. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
And the second time was I was working there on like a Sunday and the CEO came with his wife and like some friends that were visiting him and was like, because it was kind of like a family owned business and was like, wanted to show them the new office, what they've built and stuff.
Mhm.
And he's just like, what is this guy doing here?
Mhm.
And it was like a point of pride for him to be like, look how hard my employees work. This
Yeah.
guy's here on the weekend. And then he like mentioned it in the sales kickoff.
Yeah, there
He's like,
was,
"How'd you like Peter?"
dude, this is like, I'm learning about more too, is like company values. Because the first agency I worked at, and I haven't landed as to where I would fall on a moral standpoint of
Mhm.
this particular action. But the CEO of the company, I worked weekends too. I worked at an agency, and he would go, and I think this is like the most ostentatious, biggest asshole guy ever. Um, I probably should have said that, but he's
Cut.
he would yeah, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
He would walk around the floor, like single person
Yeah.
office, 60 some people or so in the location. And he would, on Saturdays, he would walk around with a stack of $50 bills and give them to the employees. And
If they were there on the weekend.
on the weekends, coming on the weekends, like, oh, you guys are grinding. And he was like a former athlete, almost like a meme. Like have you ever seen The Incredibles?
Yeah.
So he's like kind of like the short boss guy, like the way he walked and moves. You know what I'm talking about? Like in the very beginning of the movie, the guy gets thrown through the wall. The short boss with black
I
hair.
don't remember that.
Oh man,
I haven't watched that movie
he's-
enough with my daughter.
Okay, but he's like a very stubby, short dude. Has a very comical
Yeah.
way of walking around. Former wrestler, former athlete.
Okay.
Parade around there, like giving away $50 bills. Like you guys are grinding.
Interesting.
And I don't know.
Comment.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but I don't like I don't want, like, sometimes I think about this, like the line you draw between yourself and the company. Um, I have I'm a very hard worker. I think it's more of a Midwestern thing that I've adopted. And I don't want to set that standard to where if someone that I either hire or work with down the line has a different way where they work best, for that to be a conflict. Have you ever met anyone that maybe you
Mhm.
worked with or hired at Profit Mill that, you're impressed by their work ethic, but it's maybe different from yours?
Mm, I don't know that I mean, I don't expect anybody to work any very specific particular hours. I think like those days should be gone. I mean, we ask a lot of people. Everybody asks a lot of everybody when it comes to their work, and I think that the only way to do that for a long enough period of time is to have flexibility.
Mhm.
I really do believe in this sort of the way high performance athletes recover. Like it's a lot of short bursts of kind of intense training, and then there's a lot of like intense recovery. And I think that works well.
Yeah.
I have a coach. She used to be a head of HR at a lot of different companies, and like one of the things that she talked about to me that she was like, you can design your business to be whatever you want it to be, right? Like this is your prerogative. So whatever you think you work best and the way you think you'll work best with your employees, you can do that. She gave me an example of somebody that she actually coaches right now who is a founder or an executive. And he's kind of like on his second venture and they're building some like really hard startups in like finance and robotics. And she was telling me that he just loves to like go surf or do some fun stuff.
Mhm.
That the way he's designed his work right now with his current company, is that they work 2 weeks in person. He flies in all the employees to come in person, nonstop, 12 to 16-hour days, every day, even through the weekend.
Hmm.
They eat together, they work together, they ship like crazy. Like they just get stuff done
Mhm.
and then they take 2 weeks off.
Hmm.
So maybe no time
Interesting.
sensitive client work at this point, but
Mhm.
they have this sort of like full commitment of your entire life to that and then full commitment to life after that.
Hmm. That's interesting. I
Yeah,
think
very
it's good
interesting.
to. I think a model like that would be really good to like to distinguish the like eliminate the gray area. So like this is hard work, this is not hard work.
Yeah.
So I even see it myself, like how much time is being spent on like $10 an hour activities that just make their way into my day. I've gone back and forth on what the most valuable use of my time is. And I think on some level it's relationship building. I think on some level, I think both of our jobs are sales and
Mhm.
biz dev. Um, but I also go back and forth on too, like, okay, if my highest leverage task should be done the first thing of the day, like,
Mhm.
and that's, you know, that's still what I do to this day is usually the first 90 minutes are some kind of outreach or biz dev because it's, the highest
Yeah.
leverage activity, I think. But it's also like the mornings for me is like when I'm most creative, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of that stuff is more manual. It's more pre-defined. I have the list of people that I want to reach out with for the day, things like that. But I think oftentimes, like, what if the most valuable use of that time would be writing
Yeah.
or in design or doing more fulfillment
Yeah.
or just on our own creative marketing side of things. What do you think? Like, what's the highest? If you had like, I know you're a very early riser. We've talked about that. So when you get up at 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
what is the thing you're spending like the first hour of your day doing?
Uh, so it is tough to wake up really early in the morning, and I
Hmm.
do wake up. People are gonna think I'm nuts, but I do wake up at like 3 a.m. most of the time.
I thought you were joking when you first said that in Florida.
No, I'm pretty used to like going to bed before 9 now, and I kind of need like 6 hours of sleep. So I'm used to kind of getting that like 3 to 8 a.m. is like a really good time. Plus, we have a lot of like employees in Eastern
Yeah.
Europe, so just works out well. But to be honest, they kind of work like Western hours, so it's not that really. But when you want to wake up consistently during that time, you do have to have a sort of a motivation hack, which
Yeah.
my motivation hack is that I'll oftentimes fill that time with the activity that I like to do the most.
What is that?
It could be a lot of stuff. Right now, it is playing with AI and like building automations and that like that practice of creation
Mhm.
is and building is so fun. I think it's like innately fun for
Mm.
us as humans.
Yeah.
Um It certainly isn't doing taxes or admin work or
Mhm.
finance work or stuff that I like am putting off. Sometimes I have to fight through and make those the first things that I do, or like I'll do something fun and then package it with some of the stuff that is not that fun for me.
Mhm.
I like writing content, whether it's for LinkedIn or blog posts or that sort of stuff. I love doing sales and marketing. So doing BD,
Mhm.
business development is like fun for me. So maybe I'll do that during that time.
Mhm.
So I tend to fill it up with these sorts of things, which are also really hard to prioritize once that sort of like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. clock hits and
Yeah.
clients wake up and they start messaging us about things that seem urgent or time sensitive or
Mhm.
something where at least we should like kind of action on right away. So that's what I use that time for. But because it is really fun for me, because I look for it, and probably if you were kind of using those like habit building principles that have been described in those books,
Mhm.
is I have basically a micro reward for waking up that early.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a good idea.
and plus, like client work is not transformational work for our agency. For us to even add more value eventually for the clients that we have, I need time set aside to learn new things, explore new tools, like read about best practices, like check out what others are doing, and that is also really the edge that I think our clients pay for, which is you're doing all the hard work for me or coming up with the latest and greatest that's going to incrementally push our business, which goes without saying, that's also going to be harder for AI to maybe replace and
Mhm.
orchestrate than it is going to be like the really manual check my negative keywords, update this, do
Mm.
that. respond to me, summarize action items, like that. A lot of that stuff's going to get automated, but really kind of focusing on the high leverage activities, I think, is always going to be really important, and we have to set aside time for that.
It's a really good idea. It's doing the thing you actually enjoy most first thing in the day.
Yeah.
Because I even seen it with. Do you are you diligent about sleeping with your phone not in your room, or not sleeping near your phone?
Yeah.
No.
I used to be really into that. Not
Mm.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm not so much right now. There was a brief period a couple months ago. I had to, not a couple months, maybe a couple weeks ago, I had to reset my phone, and I didn't have Slack on my phone for a bit.
Mm.
And that was so nice. I should probably get back to that, but then when you kind of need it, it's like missing. Um, but I think it's a good practice. I just have never
Yeah.
really done it.
That's what I've heard. That be like, you can take one action that'll have like the most downstream positive impacts. It's that one.
Yeah.
I just can't either. I can,
Yeah.
particularly about language. I definitely can. I just haven't done it yet. You know?
I've been trying to also work out like early in the morning
Mhm.
too. So that is definitely like an activity that is not my number one option activity of what I love to do, but I do see a lot of payoff in like how I feel that day and how productive I am
Yeah.
and creative and all that sort of stuff. So that's something
Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm not good at it.
Yeah. I have to. I always run first thing in the mornings, and it's I don't enjoy, I don't enjoy it. It's like I have to suffer almost, and it's sometimes makes me procrastinate and get out of bed because I really don't want to do it.
Do you listen to a podcast when you run?
Usually, yeah.
Okay. That for
When
me
I
is
can
like
hear
the
it.
reward that gets me going in
Yeah,
that.
that's a good point.
I like a really good audiobook. Give me some Hermosi,
Yeah,
My First 1 Million, some good like audiobook to listen
Mhm.
to, and that'll get me to run for like
Yeah.
half an hour.
Or you could just, who David Goggins is.
Yeah.
Could just throw some of that
I'm
on.
not a
I'll get
Goggins
set
level,
up.
no.
Dude, that always gets me going. When I ran my first marathon, I just mainline that book. His book
Yeah.
is called Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
Dude, like if you ever want to like run a
You
marathon,
listened to his book while you ran the
yes,
marathon? Okay.
absolute
That's
hack.
cool.
If you ever have to do something like you don't want to do, and because his whole story is
Yeah.
basically like
Suffering.
dad beat the shit out of me, racism, all this stuff, and you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah. Anyway, I
That's
have that
great.
mindset reserved
Okay.
when I need it.
I like that. Maybe that's when I'll listen to his book while I'm running. I like that.
Yeah, you won't enjoy it, but it's potent fuel is still fuel either way.
I could definitely see that for the half marathon. That would be cool.
Mhm.
There's one near my house that would be fun to do.
Yeah, dude, I need to come to Michigan too,
Yeah.
and then reciprocate because you made the drive down here to come see me in Columbus.
Maybe in September you can do the international half marathon. Have you heard of this?
Is that in Michigan?
It's in Michigan, and it crosses the Ambassador Bridge and goes into Canada, and then you come back through the tunnel back into Detroit. So it's the only marathon in the world that like crosses two borders. I'm pretty sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun, and obviously everybody who like goes on the Ambassador Bridge, you get this like gorgeous view of the Detroit River. So everybody like stops there, kind of
Mm-hmm.
take a photo, and
Yeah.
you have to have your passport on you. They like check you in, and you go through, and you run like, I don't know if it's like 4 miles or something, and then you go through the tunnel, and you're back in there.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
it's a fun marathon.
So, ex Google, you worked at Google for 8 years, and then you
Mhm.
started a Google Ads agency. That's like a big part of your messaging and value prop
Yeah,
too.
it is. Yeah.
Even in like the headline of your website, copy on LinkedIn, tagline.
hmm
How This is something I wanted to particularly ask you. Like, how particular on are you about using your past experience to market the company, and is that something that you plan to do long term when
Yeah.
it's not just you in the future?
Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts on this because I've thought about this a lot. You definitely need some sort of a unique value proposition. I mean, we pitch this to our clients all the time. Like, what makes you unique compared to everybody else? And it doesn't mean that you're only going to be the one person that does this, but are you one of the top 1% or 5% of companies that do X, right?
Mhm.
So there's definitely some ex Google people who do paid ads out there, but not a lot of them. Certainly, most people don't come from that background. And also, um, so basically this pitch really came from the feedback from the clients who ended up hiring me. It was very much like, why do you, like, I plain on ask, like, why did you hire me? And they're like, because of your background. Right. So if that's the reason why people, and even now I recently asked a client, like, why did you hire us? And like, because of your background. So if that's why they hire us, why not be as direct as possible with that? And we did work with Daphne on fleshing that out both times, both on our version 1 and version 2 of the website. The second thing that we mentioned is that we focus on profitable paid ads. And the reason we do that is because in my experience working with thousands of advertisers and dozens as an agency, the only thing that retains somebody doing paid ads is if it's profitable. And we can talk about how they attribute that profitability. But if it's not delivering positive ROI, eventually they will pause paid ads. And obviously it's much better to retain a client than to acquire a new one. So we're just hitting on the two things that really sell somebody working with us. One, we are unequivocally focused on making paid ads profitable. We will never sell you vanity metrics and like, oh, look how good the click-through rate is and clicks and impressions. Like, none of that stuff matters whatsoever. It doesn't matter to me as a founder when I run paid ads. I want to see that I actually get deals from running paid ads now or 6 months or a year from now, but it needs to be attributed. The ex-Google thing, I did have a feeling about it for a long time that I was like, I can do this for like a year. I can say that I'm from ex-Google for about a year. And then after that, I'm not, like, it's going to be kind of embarrassing that I'm going to keep like, hanging my hat on that, which I don't have that type of like, I don't, my confidence, my personal confidence and security does not come from this Google tag. Okay. I don't care that I worked at Google. I already forgot about it. But I was listening to Subri Sabi from King Kong out of Australia. I don't know if you've heard of him. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love some of his videos.
He's a bald guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. So in one of his videos, he talks about, and he's had that agency for like over a decade, where he was like, keep repeating the message that you want to keep repeating. He's like, if you are tired of it and you think it's been overdone, it's only in your head.
Yeah.
He's like, there's an infinite number of people out there who have never heard of you, have never heard your story, that you need to keep repeating, because he's like, you don't think that I'm sick. I'm not sick and tired of telling everybody that I started my agency with $50 in my bank account in like my mom's basement or something like that. It's like a story like that. And he keeps saying it to this day, like a decade later. But I just discovered him. I didn't know about him 10 years ago or 7 years ago or whatever. And even if he said it like 2 or 3 times, like, it's really not a big deal in my mind. And when I heard him say that, that's when I decided I'm going to talk about this ex-Google experience for whatever. I have no timeline, but I'm not ripping that out anytime soon, because
that's really good. Yeah. And that's like Hormozy's thing he says too, is like, when you're getting bored or you feel like you're being repetitive, people are just hearing about you for the first time.
Exactly.
And he made that example too, is like when he had this book launch where he put like millions and millions of dollars of ads behind, and he would stop one person on the street and be like, hey, you going to the book launch?
Yeah.
It's like, no, what are you talking about? So that's actually a really good justification.
So I stopped being self-conscious about using that essentially. And I give that advice to everybody now too. Like, keep banging the drum with whatever, like, and the simpler the message, the better, right? Like, politicians do this all the time. They'll say, drain the swamp. 3 words. I still remember that. So you just got to keep repeating a super simple message: profitable paid ads by an ex-Googler. That's it.
I have one that I want to make attributable to me, and that's websites are lazy.
Websites are lazy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. I was trying to make it 3 words, so I compressed it down to that. But so I think some aspect of that is going to be so much more important, like in the future.
Yeah.
When it's so easy to create.
Yeah.
That it's going to become infinitely more important to make them work hard.
What's the name of that guy? Chris something from Refine Labs.
Chris, I know who you're talking about. Chris, the guy who went through the whole like spiritual crisis thing
that I don't know about at all.
From Paceto too.
Yeah, he has Paceto now.
Yeah.
But what I love about that guy is he is so good.
Chris Walker.
Chris Walker.
I actually realized that before I looked at him.
Yeah.
So
And again, I'm no comment on who he is as a person. I have no idea. I don't follow that.
mhm.
But I do think that um, he is incredible at coining a certain term or even creating
Yeah.
like a marketing term. And some people are really good at that.
hmm
And then just seeing it over and over and over again. Like, what do you associate Chris Walker with?
Me,
Yeah, from a marketing standpoint.
um, I haven't consumed a ton of his content,
Okay.
but um, like being kind of like the um, I won't say my opinion. I don't
Okay.
have like a bad opinion of
Okay.
him or anything. But I don't think I've watched enough of his
Okay.
content to know.
His thing for the biggest time at Refine Labs was dark social.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah. I didn't know that was him, but
Okay.
I've heard of the term before I heard of him.
Okay. So
So
he was the one that just kept saying dark social. What is dark social? Dark social is um, customer marketing.
mhm,
Dark social is basically like lack of attribution with social media
mhm,
and paid social. Um, there's referrals,
mhm,
word of mouth. There's so many words that represent the exact same thing as dark social,
mhm.
but he is so good at branding himself with that
Yeah.
and just repeating it over and over and over again, that I have
Mhm,
to give him kudos for that.
mhm,
And then now he has like he's doing the same thing with his new agency. Um, I forget exactly what he loves to say with that one,
mhm.
but I haven't watched enough of the content
Yeah.
from that one as
I
well.
saw an episode of My First Million, you mentioned that earlier, where they talked to the guy that named, um,
I
like some
love
of the
that
most
guy.
famous
I love
companies.
his
What was his
agency.
name? I can't remember.
I forget his name, but he was also interviewed, I want to say on the Tim Ferriss
Yeah.
podcast or
Yep.
somewhere else. Yeah, I love like a niche, unique agency like that.
Yeah, but he named like BlackBerry,
Yeah,
Swiffer, like some of the most famous brands online.
yeah,
Just goes through his whole process. What I did, because we talked about earlier, like I'm creating some kind of marketing mastermind here in Columbus.
hmm
Was basically uploaded all of his content into a quad project. Said like, take this process of creating a
yeah,
compelling name and run it through these that I have for this concept.
yeah,
Um, Output wasn't great, but the concept was there.
yeah.
Um, Branching on that thread of AI, what are some of the things we chatted earlier this week about how you are?
You were mind blown.
Yeah. Um, to the terms that you're comfortable sharing,
Yeah,
what are some of the things that you are building in AI? I'll preface it by saying sometime last week you mentioned that you stood up all night
yeah,
and experimented with ways to make it more productive for your agency.
yeah. I was up till 5 a.m. I just couldn't stop, and I'm not gonna have any other time.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, I mean, I really think that a marketing agency, and there's so much VC money being thrown at this, is going to be kind of fully automated on the back end.
mhm,
Um, it can certainly function more as like a software company with like a service layer on top. And the account managers really being probably the last, um, really valuable human help where they're going to be kind of like orchestrators of all the activities that are coming together and all the different, maybe either contractors or agents that need to kind of work together to
mhm,
deliver like output. I mean, we're going to basically get paid for strategy and taste, um, in our perspective on how because you're going to tell the agent on how to run something. And then, we're going to be kind of telling them on like, well, this is what maybe the data says, but we see maybe a longer term picture or we know something that they don't know, um,
mhm,
so in which you're going to kind of direct how that strategy is going to play out for the advertiser.
mhm,
So there's like on the back end, there's so much automation. Like even doing invoicing is such a pain in the butt. And I just built a dashboard recently that has, to give you an idea, goes into Bonsai and checks the status of that invoice. And then all our clients will put our invoice into Bill.com, Ramp, Brex, Mercury. When they ingest that invoice, you usually get like an email notification that says like your invoice is going to come in like 3 days. We've already uploaded it. It's on the way. Wise.com also like sends us a notification when an invoice was paid and there was a deposit that came from somebody. So basically this agent scans my email every single day. You can make it as frequent as you want, but we're just kind of saving on tokens. Scans it every single day and looks for these emails and then updates the dashboard with where is the invoice in that process. Because usually it was me being like, okay, I gotta go do invoicing. And I'd spend an hour being like, oh, I think I remember I got that bill.com notification from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I don't remember which company it was. There's also like the other thing is every company has like a weird corporate name, or some of them do, that does not at all match their brand name. And I'm
Yeah.
like, which company is this?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's these little things that take up so much time that is now kind of completely automated.
Mm-hmm.
And even I have a voice agent that analyzed my transcripts to understand my voice and like the length of sentences I tend to say, what words I like to use, the tone of the voice, that it now drafts an email that I can send as a follow up in my voice based on if the invoice is not getting paid. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because in that case, I spoke to a developer when I was in Miami who was an AI developer for a big executive recruitment agency. And he's like, I have a team and we've just been hired to like automate everything. And I was like, how do you automate invoices? How do you make sure that people pay on time? And he was like, well, he's like, when they're not paying on time, there's a human element that needs to come in to kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, bring a bit of emotional push to be like, hey, come on, like, can you
Yeah.
pay our bills, please?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so maybe that will be the last piece that will never really be automated or anytime soon, but
Mm-hmm.
everything else should be. So that's just one on that end. From the client side, we've ingested all of the conversations that we've had over the last 2 years and are creating. We have a version 1, or I would say even version 3 now, of the master playbook of all the optimizations that we ever do with our clients, which will evolve over time. But there's specific points in the engagement journey and results that we tend to bring in like a certain optimization, and it's never been codified. And it used to take instructional designers to do this, which costs a lot of money and time. And this thing basically did it in 3 days. It took a long time for it to ingest 3,000 conversations
Mm-hmm.
over 20 months. But it did a crazy job. And now we're just sort of giving it slightly more nuanced prompts in how we want the data to be processed. But it already has, this is the task. Is it one time or recurring? Here's why we're suggesting this task. Here's the description. Here's the typical objections that the client had for this task and how we answer them.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's a draft email that you can use to send this to the client or a message. And then the next step of that is going to be that the agent's going to read the calendar for our team for the next day and then suggest from that bank of optimizations and based on where they are in the engagement journey, like any of these 5 things is on the docket for you to suggest. Can you review them again, where we still need a human, and say, is this the right thing? And here's everything that you need to know. Here's the playbook for this optimization
Mm-hmm.
to even, gift to the person who's going to optimize it, et cetera, et cetera.
Dude, like the way you think like multiple steps ahead is how I can tell you've spent a lot of time thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, from, I mean, I'll add, like, what do you think is going to be the most valuable
Mhm.
when you mentioned agencies could become mostly a software product with a service layer on top? You said account management experience. I think the communication side of it, getting projects across the finish line, coordinating,
Yeah.
maybe increasing the client understanding of what's going on without getting them into the weeds. Anything, I think lead generation is going to become,
Mhm.
a lot more important. But do you think, like, skill wise, say an agency who's maybe 2 to 3 years in, and they're starting to like adopt some of these tools, what do you think becomes skill set wise, aside from AI, what do you think becomes the highest leverage skill that they can either get better at or seek to hire for
Yeah.
or try and build for themselves?
Well, the thing that they're talking about now in software building and having a software startup, that there is absolutely or isn't going to be any sort of moat in um, your ability to build software, and there's nothing that's going to be like sort of sticky about that software anymore, because any other company can just go and,
Mm.
I should actually say not sticky, but I'm trying to find the right word for this, which is that um, like before it would take a long time to build a software application, and you would know that that competitor that's just starting now, they're going to need to catch up on 2 years of development. Now a new competitor can come and they can catch up on that development in a month or two, maybe a couple of weeks. I don't know, depending
Mhm.
on, how cracked your engineer is. So what they're saying in software is that
Correct.
speed is the only moat. This is why, like, we're finding that software companies and the counterparts we have are doing the 996 and even more. They're just working all the time
Mhm.
because they have to. They have to be so fast. Like the moment they roll out one feature or one side of the product, they're like, every other competitor already has this. We need to come up with something new that's going to be kind of nicely packaged together.
Mhm.
Um, and I think in the agency world, um, the part that's kind of different, I think, is that a lot of times agencies either do one thing really, really well, or agencies do a lot of things and they kind of do them in a mediocre way.
Mhm.
Like maybe they're kind of good at one thing, but they're kind of mediocre at like the three other things that they package together.
Mhm.
Ideally, every customer would like to not work with a lot of different vendors. They would love to work with the one vendor that they like. And that's why they oftentimes, those vendors will come to you and be like, do you also do SEO? Like, it'd be great if we just worked with you on that
Mhm.
other thing. That's why a lot of times I think agencies, amongst many reasons, will do a lot of other stuff.
Mhm.
So there was already this concept of like the T-shaped influencer or an agency, which was like, even over the last 20 years, Google has been making, and every paid ads channel has been making the management of that paid ads channel easier and easier. That doesn't require as many people as it required 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Like they want people using the platform. So
Mhm.
some of those people who started as paid ad specialists like 20 years ago were like, I remember when I used to do all these manual levers and things. And now that's not something I can charge hourly for or money for because I can change that really quickly. And the client's like, what else are you doing for me?
Mhm.
Some of the clients. So there was this concept of T-shaped influencer or freelancer where you have to do a bunch of things, not just the one thing that you're really good at, but you need to also help out in some other areas of marketing
Mhm.
that are supplementary. And I think that T-shape is going to get sort of wider and deeper
Mhm.
where, yeah, you do paid ads, but can you also do SEO really well? Can you also do outbound email really well? Because we kind of can't justify your cost for you just doing paid ads for us because we know
Mhm.
so much of that knowledge is either
Yeah.
available, automated. We could hire an agent that just does it to 80% of the level that you're going to do it. So I think agencies are going to adopt new skills faster than previously because of how much you can basically scrape from the internet
Mhm.
of what's out there. And there's been this whole thing of like building in the public. Like there's an insane amount of content
Mhm.
out there. You can go and spin up your own outbound email and probably do it at the level that maybe a mediocre agency does it at.
Mhm. Yeah. Hence our last conversation. I think too, a lot of what you just said, spot on. I would say too, more things that become important more and more is things like brand. I think people are gonna have
Mhm.
more optionality in terms
100%.
of who they can choose to work with. And that's when things like relationships, having really good content that resonates deeply. Um, which even on the content side, AI is making a lot of things easier there too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you talked about aggregating years of customer calls and insights. I listened to a podcast yesterday where a guy, I think people who the biggest advantage is like established businesses who are at the sort of this medium point where they've exited escape velocity, but they're not but they're not too into their own ways to still be flexible and adapt.
Mhm.
Like people who have data that can train and inform optimizations for
Mhm.
their company. So this guy took like 6 years of customer calls, feedback,
Yeah.
testimonials, and he used it to rewrite his entire website. Like the exponential value of that is so much more targeted and calibrated and effective
Mhm.
because they had that time and reps and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I go back and forth a lot on being bullish, bearish, excited,
I know you do.
existential. Sometimes I
Existential
just need to
crazy.
go and touch
Um,
grass and do all that. But
when I worked at Influitive, and it was a customer advocacy platform for B2B,
Hmm.
our pitch was that your customers and the stories you have with them and the case studies and the experiences is one of the few and only competitive advantages or
Hmm.
things that are so unique about your company.
Yeah.
Like we worked with X company, we understand that market and how it performs better than a lot of other companies who maybe did not work with that type of market. So
Yeah.
it's even possible, here's another angle is really highlighting your experience with a certain industry and as a very specific company as a way to sell and win that customer. Like, hey, I am so much better at the security part or security software because I worked with a SOC 2 compliance company than the other agency that you're competing
Yeah.
with.
That almost goes
Uh,
back to like the Google Ads thing,
mhm,
hiring based on stories and experience
yeah,
rather than just arbitrary,
yeah.
value props.
The other thing I would say too is like, which goes back to brand, is really like your marketing and distribution.
Mhm.
I have noticed that some of the biggest agencies in the world or the ones that like scale from let's see 1 million to 10 million, they all had one distribution moat, call it, that just crushed for them. And that's what took them to that next level.
Mhm.
Like I think, the Impactable agency really had this angle of like the founder has an incredible LinkedIn following. And I think that's, really impressive, probably gets them a ton of leads. Um, some people build that on YouTube. There's one of the agency owners that I met. He does X ads specifically. And he's like, it took me like 5 years to build a YouTube following that I did around X ads and management. But he's like, now we get, 100 plus leads every single month
Mm.
from that. But that took 5 years to build. And that's a great mode to have going forward. Another agency owner I talked to has an incredible newsletter that took off during COVID. And that's their, lightning bolt for where they get a ton of leads every single week, every single month. So everybody has like one channel that they're really,
Yeah.
really good at. And it's hard, right?
It is hard because algorithms change,
Yeah,
like
distributed
I've
too.
heard recently, like the YouTube is becoming the next sort of LinkedIn in terms
Yeah.
of like the audiences that are going on there and the time that's being spent by a lot of qualified, higher ticket B2B traffic
Yeah.
is moving towards longer form trust mediums, which is on
Yeah.
YouTube. And that even from an ads perspective, that has to switch like your priorities and the things that you're worrying
Yeah.
about too. Because the moment you go into the YouTube ad space, then you're messing with video and also dealing with different audiences there too, and different viewer behaviors. So,
Yeah. It's very scary. I mean, the LinkedIn algorithm changes all the time. And what if like your traffic just cuts in half and you've invested years building into that? Same with email. What if like your email deliverability just gets cut in
mhm.
half out of nowhere? Um, Maybe YouTube too, but I don't know. That's just the nature of the game, I guess.
Yeah,
There's
I think
nothing
too. Like
100% safe.
I, I had some asshole comment on one of my posts because I made the point that and this was controversial, like all the good well performing content does is kind of like a spiky point of view.
Okay.
So my point of view was it's crazy that posting on organic social, any platform, is a marketing team's top priority these days.
I saw your
When
post. I liked it. It resonated.
Yeah, but
Keep
then
going.
at the same time, the other part of the point was as well that posting every day is your main priority, whereas the bottom of funnel service pages on your website aren't optimized for bottom of funnel traffic.
Yeah.
Because you spend a lot of time. I think it's just human nature to spend time on what is the most visible
Yeah.
and not what may be the most effective.
Yeah.
And obviously it's case dependent too.
Yeah.
But I mean, from an ads perspective, what would you say is like a home run? Say someone gets on a call with Peter, and what what would be like an ideal client come to you with, like company size, existing marketing efforts?
Yeah.
What makes you just like chomp at the bit? Like, yeah, we can knock this out of the park from an ads perspective.
Um, so anybody who's already running paid ads, already spending a good amount of money, has been doing it for some time, has already validated that it works for them for the most part.
Mhm.
Like they have to be getting some value out of it for them to be doing it for this long and at this spend level. So that already eliminates the massive risk that we usually have when we were launching paid ads for the very first time for somebody, because I
Mhm.
have no idea at the end of the day, I cannot fully predict. I can have a guess. Like I can look at cost per click. I can look at some of the competitors in the space, see how their website looks, and be like, you have a good chance that maybe when we start driving traffic towards you, that the ROI is going to make sense based on how like your close rates and your deal size.
Mm-hmm.
And you seem really competitive compared to your competitors. But honestly, I could not. I would probably have a losing streak if I was like trying to predict like is paid ads going to be profitable or not for this advertiser. Because sometimes we're super surprised for whom it is profitable, super surprised when it isn't profitable, and also the auction is dynamic, so things change. We'll have advertisers who are really good with paid ads for a couple of years, and then a big competitor comes, starts spending a ton of money, and it's like super unprofitable all of a sudden.
Hmm.
So if they're already like an established company, it's running great. And then at that point, maybe 1 out of 20 times, maybe 1 out of 10 times, we'll look at the account that some other agency is running, and we'll say, this is like 80% of the way there. Like there's probably not that much more that you can do. And I don't think it's worth you switching to work with us to get this marginal benefit and take on risk that you are not going to love working with us the way you love working with the person there.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely happens, but I have absolutely said that to people. Most of the time, it's extremely sub-optimized and we can do a lot better. And then on that call, we will give everything away.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say, here's everything that I would change. We even do full-on audits. We don't charge for that. There's a lot of companies who do charge for audits. And I was like, that's my number one selling point is actually highlighting tactically and concretely how much better this would be if they did this with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a no-brainer when we get to do an audit for somebody.
Given your experience, how much value, roughly speaking, there's a technical side of ads, and then there's the part that a Hormozy would talk about of like home run offer, instant hook, no hesitancy on pressure on that. How much, when it comes to running ads, how much roughly would you weight the value of having a home run offer versus the technical correctness of the implementation? How much of it each matters?
It's like if I could actually answer that, it would kind of say 100% for each, because it's really not going to work well without either.
Yeah.
So I guess net, when I do explain it to customers, it is like 50-50.
Mhm.
Like maybe if you have like super bad, mediocre setup, but you're at least driving some traffic that seems relevant and you already have a good company that is positioned correctly, you're still going to get some sales. People are going to get there and look at it. But if you also have a really great setup and then we have a website that really is not that unique, we're like, we tell our clients, the playbook we have given you is exactly the same playbook that we have given to all our other clients who are very happy and working with us and crushing it with paid ads and it's profitable. But the offer that you have, your position in the marketplace is just not the same as it is for them. And that I cannot solve. I can do a job of extracting everything that they already have. If they tell me, no, there are reasons why people love us. Here's the reason for that XYZ. And then I go, well, why isn't that on your website? Why aren't you positioning yourself that way?
Yeah.
A lot of good reasons why they don't. It takes forever, blah, 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 to make changes.
Yeah.
That's when a landing page can be a really good isolated way to get that across. But if they have a product that's okay, hard to compete with, we can't solve that problem.
Yeah. I mean, the more I talk to other agency owners and the more like in the marketing as services, there's so much overlap in like what we all do.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times it's getting out, like from a copywriting perspective, getting out something of a value prop from them that they may not be comfortable with sharing, but it's like you can tell right away, like, man, this is gonna convert. Like, this is a really good hook.
Yeah.
And
this is the funny part where when you work with companies that are already crushing it, like if you were the paid ads agency on Ramp, and Ramp is crushing it because they have an excellent product that people already share through word of mouth. So there's already so much brand awareness built in. Pardon me. And then you make a case study that like I scaled Ramp to X size. It's kind of BS.
Yeah.
You were there to enable it. Like I'm not taking away the effort from that, but it's hard to kind of add that caveat in a case study. Be like,
Yeah. Well, it's the same as like logos on a website. Yeah, the company has Amazon on there, and in reality,
yeah,
they worked with, Miguel in customer service.
yeah,
So yeah,
it's
I see
true.
it both ways too.
That's true.
There's also and I go back and forth on this too when it comes to social proof. It's like if you, and this is more like for you and I, if you genuinely believe that, and I do, we both do,
Yeah.
that the customer will be in better hands after having interacted with you,
Mm-hmm.
it is your responsibility to sell to them to get them to that outcome, whether it's you
Mm-hmm.
make a referral for them if they're in a budget fit, or if there's not a fit for other reasons. Like
Yeah.
it is our responsibility to sell what we have to them because they will be in a better state
Yeah.
afterwards.
I we are thinking a lot about offers. Or I
Mhm,
should say I guess. Like one of the offers that we're thinking of coming out is that we will tackle on CRO and rebuilding like a paid ads landing page for free. And you can run it for, let's say, a month or two, see if you like the results. And if you do, you get to keep the landing page, but you need to pay us for that effort and sign on for that, subscription.
mhm,
Um, and that's a really good offer because 100% of the time when we get to refine that experience,
mhm.
the performance is so much better. So it's almost guaranteed that they'll probably stick around.
Yeah.
But it completely eliminates the risk on their end to think that, um, that they're going to pay for something that's not going to add value. And it's actually really easy for them to analyze whether the performance got better.
Mhm.
The stuff like that I think could be a really good offer.
Yeah. It's hard to I think every company should go through that of like Tormosi's framework of what is an offer that your ICP would be stupid to say no to. And
Yeah.
you want to kind of have that line to where it's very compelling, but also it doesn't raise like the eyebrows of like, this is a scam.
Yeah.
So like I've seen there's a lot of people in the web space that do like, we'll build your website. And if you don't love it, you don't pay
Yeah.
anything. That is for the right customer. Obviously it's very appealing,
Yeah.
but you have to be very customer aware when you make those offers too.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I'm always, and more now. I talked to I mentioned I had a phone call with an agent owner yesterday, and you can almost tell people's like the gradient that they operate on in terms of their ambition and their time in business potentially when you hear their reaction to things like paid ads or like home run offers. Like
Yeah.
someone who's in the beginning or isn't ambitious or doesn't have a growth mindset or just hasn't been
Yeah.
in business that long, they'll view paid ads as gross. Like, oh man, I don't want to do cold
Yeah.
email.
That's true.
And then someone who is just like an elegant entrepreneur business person is like, okay, like, well, let's look at the metrics. Like, does it convert? Does
Yeah.
it
Is it profitable?
exactly? It's profitability is all that matters.
Yeah. My friend, my best friend, he works at Shopify, and he manages a lot of their influencer marketing, like working with Mr. Beast and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And he always talks about how like influencer marketing and particularly I think YouTube he understands really well has so like you just have to think of that as a funnel. Like you first see the image, the cover image on that YouTube video. That's
Mhm.
the first thing people see. It needs to grab attention. The second part of that funnel is actually the headline. So then they read the headline, then maybe the description,
Mhm.
right? So you're kind of optimizing every little part of that funnel. And there's agencies who just do that. And then they get to the page or the video. And then the first second or first 5 seconds is the next part of that funnel that you're optimizing. And you're just constantly trying to get a larger percentage of people to move to that next step of the
Mhm.
funnel.
Yeah.
When you think about paid ads and the offer that you have, I try to tell customers to mentally isolate that offer, that first headline, it has nothing to do with who you're actually going to end up signing up as a customer. It's just to get instead of 3% of people to book a Calendly meeting with you, is to get that to 6. Then there's a lot of people who still won't come to that call.
Mhm.
And then there's a lot of people you're going to talk to and they're not going to be a good fit. And then there's a lot of people who, are maybe you don't want to work with for one reason or another. And then finally, you're going to eventually end up with a higher number of people who probably don't even really care about that offer at the end of the day. They're
Mhm.
just going to be like, you're qualified. You do the work that I needed to do. I'm so glad I ended up chatting with you.
Mhm.
Let's move forward. And that offer really did the job it was supposed to do,
Yeah.
is really not materially changing your business.
Yeah. That's why you have to have an awareness of the entire customer journey, the entire
Yeah.
sales cycle, because what might be, and that's just like you work with people who haven't run ads or they haven't done
Hmm.
any significant marketing efforts in general. They're like, well, I just want to lead with the direct conversion, like book a call, like obviously that's going to be the highest converting because
Yeah.
it's the closest point between two lines.
Yeah.
When is an actuality, it's not how the buyer journey works.
Hmm.
You're leading with the most appealing thing to get them to the next step, whether it's an email list
Yeah.
or just a LinkedIn follow, things like that. That was a really good way you framed that, is having like the YouTube thumbnail example of having that be the very first. If someone were to come across you for the first time, who's your ICP, what would get them to the next step,
Yeah.
and then that's all you're focused on.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
it's a really
That's
good way you
cool.
put that. Very eloquent
Yeah.
with your language.
And we think about that with paid ads too, like whether it's paid social or on search, you have to think of what is the first thing that the person's reading. It's the first 5 words on the text that you've provided, or it's the way they're reading that image from left to right. That's the first part that they're reading, and how do you want them to qualify themselves? There's a lot I can talk about that, but it's the same thing I think in every marketing
Hmm.
function that you have.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, dude, this has been awesome. Um, we'll go to Warriors. I'm getting hungry too. I've been
Yeah,
fasting all day. Um,
I'm
but
excited.
I think a good place would be to land the plane is more on a Peter front rather than the profit mill front. Um, how did you? I think I asked you this in Florida, but how did you come up with the name Profit Mill?
Um, Again, I wanted to hammer home the point that profitability of paid ads was the only thing that mattered.
Hmm.
And then I wanted to, come up with some sort of a secondary supplementary word that um, is would signify what we do for our clients. And we had a lot of different ideas, but Mill has sort of like a motion in place, so it kind of really signifies like we're doing something with this sort of profit.
Hmm.
Obviously, also like a mill, and in our mind, I always kind of think of like those traditional Dutch mills,
Hmm.
which I love as like aesthetically,
Hmm.
are
Yeah.
taking an input and processing it and making a higher quality output. And that's how we think about paid ads too, is that you're putting an input, and like the way advertisers would come to us sometimes is, well, listen, I just want to put in $1 and get 5 back. And if you make me a machine like that, I will give you infinite amount of money.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a really funny thing to say because it like never completely pans out like that. But
Hmm.
that's what they want. And so I'm like, okay, and the mill's kind of like a good representation of that.
Hmm.
And I kind of ran this name by a lot of different people. And some people were like, it's kind of got this negative connotation for me because it reminds me of like a puppy mill.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
you're churning out things and it kind of sounds negative. And then there was like the stereotypical Silicon Valley founder who like heard the name and was like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
like make me a profit mill. I would love to churn out profit
Yep.
with this goal like all day long. And somebody told me like, you know what? If it's actually that polarizing and it makes people, some portion of the audience feel really strongly and positively about this,
Hmm.
it's probably a good name.
Yeah. I
So
think
I
it's a
kind
great name. That's why I love it. I mean, it's a cool logo too. It's really good branding, and plus, it's alliteration with your name too, Peter from Profit Mill.
of, I
So
didn't think of that, but that's great.
yeah. Well, dude, I'm
Love it. Thank you. Of
first of all, I just want to say thank you for making the trip down here.
course.
Spend the day, have a founder day. I might make that more of the show moving forwards because this has just been so
Way more
awesome.
fun.
It's like
Yeah, I
come
agree.
down to me and see Andy and record, and then give you the Columbus experience. Go to Warriors and go on a walk and just, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, just being transparent about some of the things that we're both struggling with as a founder, and anxieties about the future, what we're
Hmm.
excited about. I'll say for the audience too that you share very transparently. You don't put on a front or
Hmm.
pretend to be more successful than you are, or pretend like you have it all figured out, which
Hmm.
I think probably to a large extent you do, which you don't give yourself credit for. Um, but if listeners want to take the next step, meet you, learn more about Profit Mill, where should they go?
Hmm. On LinkedIn is probably best. I've got my booking link there, so they can just look me up, Peter Guba. I don't think there's too many of those out there, except for my dad, who's also named Peter Guba. But
You're Junior?
yeah,
Dude, you should put that on your name. You're Guba Junior.
that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Peter Guba the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just on LinkedIn, it's great.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for coming on the pod, man.